Jai Shri Krishna. Saturn will be transiting very soon into the sign of Aquarius or Kumbha Rashi. This will happen on the 17th of January 2023. This is a landmark event for the world because this holds great significance for the geopolitical, economic, health-wise, and the world views things. What will happen in the next 2.5 years also can be judged. This is a very important event, and hence I would like to brief you all about what could happen, say, over the next few months and the next few years as well. As I've already mentioned in my previous videos, we are going through a very powerful time frame now. Since 2020, when the Great Conjunction occurred, which is a change that has occurred once in 400 years. The last time it happened was way back in 1600. And that shows that this period that we are living in is as significant as the beginning of the 13th century, the 1200s. So, the conjunctions and the planetary positions that are currently running are of great global impact and have a significant impact on 2020 is packed with several other movements as well. We have Jupiter moving into the next sign, which is Aries, of which I'll make another video, and several other important transits including Rahu and Ketu. There's also been a great change in terms of the way things are being viewed, and unfortunately there's been a very problematic geopolitical crisis and a full-fledged war between Russia and Ukraine, where of course a lot of violence is going on. Alongside, as predicted, China is also being affected with a serious demographic crisis, and China is also being affected with a string of issues over the last 2 years overall. And I'll also mention the reason why this is happening and the road ahead for the big country based on the astrological forecasts. And also I would like to mention things for Bharat, our motherland. So the Russia-Ukraine war happened just 6 days after Saturn transited into Dhanishta, and that was anticipated because Dhanishta is a Mars nakshatra and situation and a major geopolitical crisis. And the same way, we also a major shake-up, something that has not happened in decades is running now. We're having a great rejig of the entire economic system and now Saturn will still continue being in the same nakshatra, which means that still that direction, and which, I mean, to be more specific, is somewhere around the South China Sea area, which is already geopolitical hotbed, and we expect this area also to be affected because of this. Since Saturn, between July and August 2022, Saturn and Mars will come in a direct opposition, of which I'll make another detailed analysis. But major water storage related or fire related or air related disaster around mid 2023 in 2023 of Dhanishta actually sparked the entire crisis. People were expecting peace, but in my video previously I just mentioned that this war is likely to continue, and now I would like to mention that it's going to continue at least till November 2023. Around March 2023 there will be some hopes for peace. However, the peace will not be long lasting. We could expect some kind of reduction after November 2023. Further, going to the current crisis in China, people are getting very scared of the COVID situation, but I think we need some facts instead of getting too scared about this situation. I would like to mention a few here. First of all, the period that China is running at the present moment is very similar to what was happening between 1959 and 1962. And if we look at the history of the world around that time frame, China faced one of the most terrible demographic crisis and terrible humanitarian crisis around that time frame, with the bursting, a direct correlation to what was happening in 1962, but it's quite similar. So, which is why we saw some skirmishes, which is why we are seeing the present crisis, which is why we saw one of the most powerful lockdowns ever in history in China, the most number of people locked down, and which is why we saw a major economic slump, and which is why we are presently seeing the demographic crisis, a very serious problem for China, say, in the coming decade. And as are being mentioned are because of a very basic and common problem that the authorities are making us believe, which is that every single death every single person who has died, in case, even remotely, if they had a single strain of, after they, just when they die, they would be labeled as a COVID death. So something even related to COVID, and the classification for this is really broad. So it's a very complicated subject, and I think we shouldn't become fools by just listening to the mainstream media narrative about it. The number of it, because if you look at the country of such a big population, and if you look at the number of people who's suffocating themselves, and again, you know what I mean. So suffocating themselves all day, not exposing themselves to sunlight, and old people beyond age 65, and those people have passed away. And this is certainly a problematic situation, but not a cause of major fear across the world. I don't think there will be any serious lockdowns in the near term in other countries, and of course serious problems. And I believe that the COVID story is finally almost over, and we're not going to see any more major responses as predicted in my previous video in 2020, when I predicted that after November 2021 we would see COVID taper down absolutely. And that's something we've seen now. The current global deaths and the current cases for COVID are actually nearing an all-time low. So